Shiesty and his boys for robbing Gucci Mane. All right, here we go. We got the full criminal complaint against Pooh Shiesty and all of his boys and his father. Special agent, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about their experience as a special agent. At 4:50 p.m. on January 10th, the victims in this document are RD, who is Gucci Mane, MM, and BP, were kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint in a music studio located on Dallas Parkway. In Dallas, Texas, the location is within the Dallas division. At 1 p.m. on January 10th, victims flew into Dallas alongside RD's head of security, herein referred to as CW. Another security officer, herein referred to as TD. All right, so CW and TD are the security. For a scheduled business meeting between Gucci Mane and Williams Jr. or Pooh Shiesty, signed a record contract for RD's label 1017 since 2021. They were scheduled to meet because Williams Jr. was upset with the terms of his contract and wished to be released from his contract obligations. Sadly, I know record labels are complete scumbags, but that's not how life works. Getting out of a record deal is a pain in the ass. I've witnessed it firsthand. It's almost impossible sometimes. Pooh Shiesty had asked Gucci to come to Dallas on this date so they could meet about business. At 1:45, the security and the victims arrived at the scheduled meeting, a recording studio with a larger office building. They entered the building and realized the recording studio owned by an individual herein referred to as JN was closed. While they waited for the studio to open, the five went to a liquor store and purchased liquor in plastic red cups. Pooh Shiesty's father called the owner of the studio multiple times on the day of the meeting. At 2:53, he answered the phone and learned that Pooh Shiesty's father was attempting to book a recording studio that afternoon for Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane to record. At around 3:15, the owner opened the studio for all of them. Investigators later collected and reviewed surveillance video captured other business located in the same office building, same floor, which shows Pooh Shiesty's father outside of the office building at 3:27 on January 10th. So here's Pooh Shiesty's father right here in the bottom right. At 3:39 p.m., an employee of the studio arrived to assist. When the employee arrived, he witnessed Pooh Shiesty and his dad staying at the back of the office building, engaged in what appeared to be an argument over the phone. What were they arguing about? At 3:43 p.m., Pooh Shiesty and his dad and all his boys enter the east side of the office building. The target suspects walked through the lobby area of the office building before going inside the studio. One individual with the dreadlock hairstyle, later identified as Gibson, can be seen on the video exiting the office building and shortly therein returning with a bag slung over his shoulder. Sounds like bro brought in a big bag of guns. So here's all the boys entering and then the bag of guns on the right here. I mean, these guys are on camera doing this. Not looking good. 9 individuals entered the studio's control room where inside the victims were watching a football game. Security was in the studio lobby while another one remained in the vehicle. Depicted below are photographs of the studio lobby. Here's the setting of everything where it went down. The victims overheard Pooh Shiesty talk on his cell phone, potentially with a probation or parole officer, stating that his caseworker had given permission to be out for rec time. From what the victims could hear, Pooh Shiesty was informed that was not the case and needed to return immediately. Keep in mind, bro's doing all this with an ankle monitor on. Like, you're a moron. Pooh Shiesty was wearing an ankle monitor, leading the victims to believe that he was on house arrest. Gucci Mane told Pooh Shiesty they should reschedule their studio session, but he requested to speak with Gucci privately in an attached recording room. Gucci Mane agreed and entered the recording room with Williams Jr., Sr., and Wright. Wright is Big 30. Another rapper, I believe. Meanwhile, the two other victims remain in the room. I think one of these guys is his cameraman, by the way. They got choked. MM or BP, I don't know which one. BP offered to share the liquor they purchased with target suspects. At least 2 accepted and grabbing the red cups and making a drink. Inside the control room, Pooh Shiesty produced purported contract termination or release paperwork from a bag and told Gucci Mane to sign it. Gucci declined. Pooh Shiesty became agitated and the pair started to argue. Sadly, not how life works, Pooh Shiesty. Are you 12 years old? Contracts, it's not going to go down like this, where you just request someone to sign it and expect them to sign it. I don't think I've ever heard that happening. The victims could see inside the recording room and initially believed Gucci and Pooh Shiesty to be discussing business, but as MM saw the conversation intensifying, he texted CW. So CW is one of the security guys. As the argument inside the recording room ensued, Pooh Shiesty instructed Wright to get his bag. Wright complied, leaving the room before returning with the bag. Pooh Shiesty then pulled what appeared to be a black AK-style pistol from the bag and pointed it at Gucci, demanding again that Gucci sign the contractual release paperwork. So stupid. He complied, signed the paperwork for Pooh Shiesty while his father and Big 30 stood by. Gucci was not allowed to leave the recording room while he was held at gunpoint by Pooh Shiesty. This seems like something out of a fucking movie, like Straight Outta Compton or some shit. This is some Suge Knight shit right here. Wright pulled out a cell phone and purported to record Gucci Mane signed the paperwork, being forced to say that he released Williams from the contract. I hope to God this video still exists and it comes out at some point. What? There's a video of this? After the release was signed, Pooh Shiesty took Gucci Mane's wedding ring, watch, earrings, and cash. Robbed him too. After it was signed, Pooh Shiesty provided the paperwork to his father and then asked if paperwork was good. His father advised the paperwork needed to be dated, so Williams Jr. then forced Gucci Mane to add date next to his signature. As they exit the recording room, the remaining subjects, Waters, Rogers, Johnson, Glover, McDaniel, and Gibson, produced handguns, pistols, and began to demand property of everyone else in the room. BP was pushed out on a couch while an individual known to BP as Simo Damn Fool and part of Pooh Shiesty's crew, later identified as Rogers, searched his pockets and stole his wallet, BP's chain, and necklace, bearing the moniker 1017 were stolen from his neck by another subject he knew as Glizzy 375, later identified as McDaniel.
Taxes was so taxing.
Moniker 1017 were stolen from his neck by another subject he knew as Glizzy 375, later identified as McDaniel. During the robbery, McDaniel repeatedly threatened to shoot BP for moving. Pooh Shiesty instructed McDaniel not to. So Pooh Shiesty was like, bro, we're not killing no one, just rob him. At gunpoint. Do people not realize armed robbery, like you're still getting 25, 40 years? Sometimes life. BP further identified an individual he knew as Baby Slime 375, later identifies Johnson as being involved in the kidnapping robbery, and that during the control room robberies, Johnson possessed a firearm and held BP and others at gunpoint. Both MM and BP identified individuals they knew as KD, later identified as Waters, also being involved in the kidnapping robbery. MM was choked. Okay, so MM was the cameraman. From behind to the point of nearly losing consciousness during the kidnapping robbery, resulting in scratches of his neck and wrist. MM was robbed of his Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag containing multiple high other dollar watches, Apple AirPods, and his wallet at gunpoint by Glover. MM confirmed his Louis Vuitton bag, AirPods, and wallet each had an Apple AirTag. I hope to God he was able to track it with Apple AirTag. That's so good. As altercation inside the control room ensued, Wright walked over to the studio door to the lobby, closed it, and blocked it with his body, preventing the victims from leaving. So Big 30 was just covering the door. The victim's security guards watched Big 30 barricade the door, attempted to force their way into the control room, but were prevented from entering. With handguns drawn, CW and TD managed to partially open the door, but recognized they were outnumbered by the armed targets. This is intense. Both sides have guns drawn at this point. I'm shocked no one got shot in this. Gucci Mane was pushed on the couch in the control room, causing the victims to believe they were going to be executed. Pooh Shiesty placed the barrel on a firearm to the back of BP's head and ordered him and Gucci to leave the room and the studio through the west entrance of the building. Gucci then instructed them to escort them to their vehicle. As the victims left, cameraman turned to Pooh Shiesty and asked him if they were really taking his watches. The target suspects then left the studio. Here's them leaving after the altercation. So they had a white Buick, a black Dodge Charger Hellcat, and a black Dodge Ram with a distinct roll bar affixed to the bed of the truck traveling northbound. Here's the 3 cars they were in. License plate readers placed this Charger in Texas, including the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex during the relevant time period, in particular 218 scan. Kept the Charger following in close proximity to a black Dodge Ram. The Dodge Ram appears to have same distinct roll bar. So license plate readers tracking these boys everywhere, right? The Buick was a rental. Of course, investigators got the Hertz search warrant to get all the information on that. And Pooh Shiesty's father was renting it. Pooh Shiesty's currently serving a 63-month sentence for violation of that shooting back in Florida 2020. As part of his conditions, he agreed to not possess any deadly weapon or knowingly be in company of a person possessing the same. He's required to wear an electronic monitoring device by the Bureau of Prisons. These records corroborate the information investigators received regarding Williams' movements, including his location at or near the offense location on January 10th. You're cooked. They're going to make an example out of him. He is probably getting at least 40 years in prison. I know it says up to life in prison. I think he might get life in prison. And now here we go. They entered businesses in the exact same outfits. And this is how they identify all these guys in the hoods. People are going to say, no, they have hoodies on, bro. You can't even identify them. Wait a second here. They go to other businesses before the robbery in the same outfits. Same shit happened in the Fulio murder. The dude walked in Walmart in the same outfit he murdered Fulio in. William Sr. enters the store and walks to the copy printer machines. They obtain a copy of the receipt. He's seen on surveillance near the machines. He went to the Staples to print the release that was presented to Gucci Mane. This is, the jokes write themselves. Bro had to use Staples to print something. Like you couldn't think of a more discreet way to print that when you're committing a crime like this. Now the cell phone records from everyone, location data. Everyone traveled from Memphis to Dallas, and the Dodge Charger Hellcat and Dodge Ram. The data from Glover's electronic monitoring device aligns with these cell phone records. Hold on, this Glover guy? The Glover guy also has an ankle monitor on. There's 2 dudes that have ankle monitors on in this. Oh my God, they're idiots. On December 1st, Glover pled guilty to felony charges of conspiracy to commit auto burglary in DeSoto County, Mississippi. He was released on $250,000 bond and was required to wear electronic monitoring. Oh my God. The data from Pooh Shiesty's ankle monitor, location information for the Buick, aligned with cell phone records. They stayed at the Comfort Inn. They got a subpoena for the Greyhound bus lines. I talked about Greyhound because I laughed about Greyhound earlier in my video and people were like, bro, they took the Greyhound for the guns. instead of flights. Well, they drove other cars down, so they really didn't need to do the Greyhound, so it's a little confusing. But Rogers and Gibson corroborate this travel. That's who got on the Greyhound. The Comfort Inn hotel they stayed at or whatever, there's going to be footage of them in the outfits too. All in the similar clothing to what suspects in the kidnapping and robbery appeared to be wearing. Rodney White in the pink spider hoodie. Corday Johnson, same exact shoes in the hotel. Kadarius Waters, same hoodie in the hotel with his face showing. Do these people that commit these crimes not realize they can get footage of you anywhere else? There's cameras everywhere, bro. Like, these guys don't think this through. Terrence Rogers, same exact jacket with the weird lines on it, as you can see. Demarion Gibson, same Supreme beanie, I think. DeMarcus Glover, same exact, I think, True Legend hoodie. Darian McDaniel, same Supreme hoodie. All right, now they got fucking fingerprints from the crime scene. Latent fingerprints from the red Solo Cup were identified as Gibson, another one as Rogers. So Gibson and Rogers, fingerprints on these damn cups there too. They can't deny they were in that room. Now here is the alleged Gucci snitching allegation. Cameraman and BP and Gucci all personally knew Pooh Shiesty. They all described Pooh Shiesty as wearing a black Nike brand Shiesty mask, black hooded shirt, and black pants during the offense. So what that sounds like is that means Gucci identified Pooh Shiesty. Now, if this happened to me, I'm snitching. I'm a civilian. But Gucci Mane has said in the past, he ain't never writing no statement. He never snitching. You know, he's a big rapper that talks about being about that life and shit. But not a good look for Gucci in terms of like being a big, cool rapper. But if this happens to me, I'm snitching on you. Just letting you know. The victims identified his father's Instagram accounts. Jesus. They all identified Wright, Big 32. Gucci did not identify KD or Waters. Oh my God, they got so many pictures of these boys. This is crazy. BP identified individual he knew as Damn Fool 375's present during the offense, described his physical appearance and clothing. Rogers on camera with the Louis Vuitton bag that's stolen. Additional posts show Rogers wearing shoes similar to those he wore during the offense. So the shoes during the offense and then on Instagram right here. Glover is the guy who choked the cameraman and wanted to shoot him. Whiskers matched Glover's driver's license photo to the individual depicted. A story featuring a large amount of cash and a Rolex similar to the one stolen. He posts on Instagram the stolen cash and Rolex. You're a moron. You're so stupid. Video showing them flashing money. Here's them flashing money, smiling, watches. The 1017 chain on Glover's Instagram. Baby Slime was identified by BP. Describing as short, held them at gunpoint. BP identified Glizzy 375 as a young black male with low fade haircut. Shiesty mastering the offense. Threatened to shoot BP before